Now we are going to be looking at rhyme scheme for our author's toolkit. The definition of rhyme scheme is the ordered pattern of rhyme in a line of poetry or verse. So when you're deciding rhyme scheme, every line of a poem gets a letter that's going to help you to track that rhyme that they have. So if you look down here, we have a poem that has an A-B rhyme scheme. So let's look exactly at how we can do that. When you're labeling the rhyme scheme, you're going to look at the last word in your first line. So let's look back at this other one. We see that the last word is night, and that last word is always going to be, or that first line is always going to be labeled an A. Regardless of what it is, it always gets labeled A. Then you look at that next line in the poem. So in this situation, we had the word skin, and we decide to skin rhyme with night. And in this case, the answer is no. And since the answer is no, it always is going to be labeled a B. Then you look at the third and you decide, does it rhyme with the first word? And if the answer is yes, as it is in this case, it gets an A as well. And then anything that rhymes with night all throughout the poem will also get an A. So then we'll look at the next line, and we'll see that grin rhymes with skin, and it will be labeled a B. And again, anything that comes after this will still be labeled a B as long as it rhymes with skin and grin. And we would keep going as we were introduced more and more lines. If they continue to rhyme with either of those words, they get an A or a B. And if it's a new rhyme, it would start over with a C and then a D and so forth. So let's go on, and we're going to look at this sample poem. Welcome to our English 3. We are both so glad you are here. It doesn't matter if you have her or me. We both know our stuff. Never fear. You will read some great lit and write a little too. Whatever you do, do not quit, because we believe in you. So let's label this rhyme scheme. First, we're going to look at the word 3. And because it's our first line, it's always going to be labeled an A. We look at the next line, and we see the word here. And we say here does not rhyme with 3, so guess what? It gets a B. Now we see the word me, and we say, does it rhyme with 3? And since it does, it gets an A. And we know anything else coming after this that rhymes with 3 and me will continue to get an A. And as we look at the fourth line, we see we have the word fear that rhymes with here, so it also gets a B. Now we're going on to a second stanza, which is basically like a paragraph in a poem. And if we found that the word here, we see lit. If it were a word that rhymed with either 3 or here, we could continue with our A's and our B's. But in this situation, we have the word lit that doesn't rhyme with 3 or here, so it gets labeled a C. Let me go to the next line. 2 doesn't rhyme with anything else we've seen, so it gets a D. We have quit, which rhymes with lit, so it gets a C. And U rhymes with 2, and it gets a D. And we could keep going all throughout. If this poem kept on going, we could see if we had anything that rhymed with our 3, our here, our lit, or our 2 to keep going with that A, B, C, or D. Or we could continue with letters all the way through the alphabet. Let's look at a couple other types of rhyme that are important to recognize, because not all poems rhyme in a regular form. And that is what free verse is. It's when a poem does not have a regular rhyme. This is one from Walt Whitman. It says, celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume you shall resume. For every storm belonging to me as good as belongs to you. And it keeps on going without a regular rhyme scheme. And in that case, it would be free verse. Now let's look at slant rhyme. Authors often take a little bit of a liberty with their rhyming and use 2 words that don't exactly rhyme. They don't have those exact identical sounds, and they use them anyway. And those are also sometimes called imperfect rhyme, near rhyme, or half rhyme. So here's an example from Bruno Mars. Shopping sprees in Paris, everything 24 carats. Take a look in that mirror, now tell me who's the fairest. Is it you? Is it me? Say it's us, and I'll agree, baby. So if you see Paris, carrots, fairest, none of those have identical sounds. However, he's used them in a way that makes your ear want to hear them as rhymes. And so that is what an example of slant rhyme would be. And then let's also look at this final example. It's internal rhyme. So that is when you are finding a rhyme in the middle of a line with something at the end of another line or in the middle of the next. So we're not just looking at that last word, we're seeing that rhyme happen within a line. So here's a song from Eminem. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti. He's nervous but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. So you'll see this. We've got sweaty, heavy, already, spaghetti, ready. So in this case, we're not only looking at internal rhyme, we're also looking at slant internal rhyme. So kind of a double shot here. But in this case, he's purposely planned those rhymes within his line to continue that rhythm and are there to as a technique that he has used in these lyrics.